Hello Africa, I'm Aviwa Mdila and welcome to the CNBC Africa special. Now, the recent World Economic Forum on Africa brought together the world of business and key decision makers to Durban, South Africa, home to the largest and busiest port in the continent. Now, CNBC Africa traveled to the Indian Ocean to find out some of the initiatives that will be shaping the economy of the African continent. Let's take a look. The World Economic Forum on Africa 2017. The top names and faces from the world of business and prominent leaders gather under the same roof to discuss how the continent can grow and prosper. For the first time, this gathering has come to Durban, South Africa. Our first stop, the Port of Durban, the biggest and the busiest in Africa. It is run by Transnet, the transport umbrella of South Africa. It is the continent's largest transporter of goods, who gave us a tour around the port. Minister of Public Enterprises, Lynne Brown, led the tour.
What we did this morning is to show Transnet as one of the largest logistics and freight company on the African continent. We've done it in the Port of Durban because the World Economic Forum is here, but Durban is also the busiest port on the continent. And what we want to show is that Transnet is able to move commodities, grain, automobiles, all of these big containers with goods in it across the continent. And so that's really what we want to show. Then we move from here to the School of Excellence, the Maritime School of Excellence, where we show that Transnet also has the capability and the capacity. It has a school for maritime, from engineers to all the kinds of employment that you can have in the maritime industry.
What plans does the minister have for Transnet and the government's desire for inclusive growth?
Transnet actually have to almost massify what it's already doing, and that is that it has to, it's the policy of the state to localize and to industrialize. Yes. Now Transnet, like all the other state-owned companies, have both a commercial, so they must be successful, and a developmental agenda. And because it's sort of the hard spine of the economy, with Eskom and the other state-owned companies, PRASA and so forth, and it belongs to the state, it has to be the driver of radical economic transformation or inclusive growth. So it has to ensure that it helps to create black companies, that it helps to, that it actually outsources its work to black companies and to many companies, not to the few black companies that are already empowered, not to the few white companies that are already empowered, but to many companies. And the employment of people, that we have a good management of people who are employed within the project. I mean, Transnet has 61,000 workers, and that it is still able to drive the economy. So that's what has to happen. And the state-owned companies belong to the state, so they must be the first implementers of its inclusive growth, radical economic transformation, call it what you will.
The next stop, Transnet Maritime School of Excellence. Here delegates get to see how African mariners are trained for the sea. Gcina Pimanjo, a marine pilot at the Port of Durban, teaches us how to steer a ship.
Here we've got a wheel where we control the movement of the ship. We've got a rudder indicator where if you want to go starboard 10, by starboard we're meaning the right hand side of the vessel, port side we're meaning the left hand side of the vessel. So if we go starboard 10, you watch your rudder indicator, you see if it goes on there, starboard 10. Oh, wow. And then midship the wheel, and then that's where the heel goes midships. And these orders, they have to be repeated by whoever is steering on the vessel. And then when you go port 10, the wheel will go on port 10, And then once it's on port 10, the one steering as well has to repeat the order saying that the wheel is on port 10, so midship. Okay, we can have a look on that side as well to see what we have. Okay. Here we've got a radar. A radar helps you to assist when you're lining up for coming inside the port of Durban. Also, just not for the port, it just helps you whenever you're navigating. You can go down on your range when you're coming more towards the harbor to make sure you've got a clear view of how you're entering. Okay. Yeah, we've got your VHF, that's your communication. If you want to speak to port control, you want to speak to the tax, it's like your communication that you have on board the vessel. This is where we control the speed. So, dead stop, like the vessel is stopped. Obviously, the ship doesn't just stop in the water. It will either continue on the momentum that it had, it's either moving forward or moving astern. Let's say we're increasing the speed. We've got dead slow ahead, half ahead and full ahead, unlike the car where you've got gear 1, 2, 3. The pilot's training, it's 1 year, but obviously you don't just wake up and become a pilot. You have to go through stages where you still have to go to tech, do your S1 up until S4, and then from there you go to C, you do your cadetship, and then from there you have your oral exam, and you obtain your deck officer certificate. From there, you come back and you train as a tug master. From tug master training, the ports, they will select the masters they want to train as pilots, and then after that, you become a pilot once you've qualified.
The Chief Executive of Transnet National Ports Authority is in charge here.
I think it's very important for us just to acknowledge some of the great stuff that we are doing here at the Maritime School of Excellence, the Transnet Maritime School of Excellence. And I think it's in keeping with the World Economic Forum theme, inclusive growth. Two important items that we have mentioned as we toured the port with the Minister Lynne Brown, and a whole host of different Transnet delegates, including the GC and the GCOO. We showcase some of the good work that we're doing. The first thing I think that is worth mentioning is embracing the fourth industrial revolution, which is embedding, the digital space that we are in. So we put together a proof of concept for what is now being referred to as the Internet of Things, where we get a whole host of information from different sources, and a lot of it is machines, sensors, actuators, and then they converge with our existing technologies. So they give us more real-time information. And we also get a better understanding of our environment. So we've got drones that, give us condition-based monitoring. And we've got underwater drones as well that, gives us some indication of how the condition of our quays, the clearance of the keels of the ship that comes in, how do we map out the areas. So it makes us there's a lot more information, that we struggled for in the past. In the past we sent divers. Now we don't need to do that. Right, although we still do need divers, and then that information then starts to become available to all our major role players, and it's not just about the ports, and one of the biggest things is that we are now wanting to involve our communities. If you think about this port, the Port of Durban, there's so many townships around the ports, right? You've got Umlazi, Chesterville, Lamontville, KwaMashu, Chatsworth. You ask anybody in these communities what is going on in a port, they don't know. So as part of the Smart People's Ports concept, we are introducing free Wi-Fi. So we are attracting people into the ports so they see their careers in the ports as something that is realizable. It's also keeping in line with Operation Pakisa, right, where we see how do we then open up the value that our coast provides to us, unlocking the potential. And there's a lot of competency that's required, and that's why we came here to the Maritime School of Excellence. Okay, so this Maritime School of Excellence opened up in 1991, and the whole idea here was to start to have our own pilots marine pilots, to have our own tugboat masters, harbor masters, port engineers, terminal operators, train them here and certify them. But at the same time, we found that we didn't have a competency, for example, training pilots almost real time from the bridge, or training competencies in dredging. We needed to go to Europe for that. Now this school has got its own simulations, its own simulator that has a scale for every port. So it's as if you are in a port. And we've got that for the Walvis Bay, we've got that for the Port of Maputo. So it means that we now have some kind of value add that we could, commercialize. So people from all the other ports in Africa could visit this Maritime School of Excellence and get trained and get developed. It's not just for our own benefit, it's for the benefit of the continent. So it's the first in the continent where you have a simulated marine environment that teaches youngsters how to become pilots, tugboat masters, and that kind of thing. So that's why it is positioned as a premier training for marine competency in Africa.
The CEO of Transnet says this is merely one step on the way.
So what you've seen here, we've just been doing an excursion where we are showing African ministers and ambassadors the facilities that Transnet has, the core competencies that we have in terms of ports, terminal operations, as well as the School of Rail, as well as the technologies that we've deployed to try and assist in terms of the competitiveness of our logistics system. So at the back of myself here is the Maritime School of Excellence. We've just visited the ship handling simulator as well as the dredging simulator, just to show some of the latest expertise that we've acquired in terms of capacity building and training. I think we've also dealt with the issues of the pipeline as well, because we've got a 3,800 kilometer pipeline network on the eastern side of the country that stretches from Durban all the way up to the Northwest Province. People have been able to see what kind of capabilities we've built, as well as the 24-inch multi-product pipeline that we are in the process of commissioning. But also to look at Transnet is an integrated logistics entity, both in infrastructure as well as in operations. So you would have seen port infrastructure as well as port operations, as well as fuel infrastructure that fuels the economy of this country and makes sure that we're able to deliver billions of liters of fuel, especially into the inland of our country, to make sure that normal transport such as cars keeps moving. So Transnet really keeps the country moving. Yeah, as you know, through our market demand strategy, we have a lot of opportunities to industrialize South Africa as well as the continent. So there's a lot of opportunity that we see in terms of making sure that we involve youth, women, and SMMEs in the manner and way in which we procure. There's a lot of work that we are doing in terms of Operation Pakisa, in terms of the oceans economy. So when we talk about inclusive growth, we are talking about involving communities in the work that we do, making sure that everybody gets involved, but also importantly, making sure that people who are at the periphery of the economy can be brought to the center stage, because that's quite important, to make sure that there's more and more people who are involved productively in the economy.
Stay tuned for more after the break. Welcome back to the CNBC Africa special. We're at the backyard of Transnet, where a number of delegates are coming through, listening, of course, to the jovial signs behind me. Now let's go inside and find out what they have in store for us.
we are very, very delighted and honored to host you today. We also welcome you to our manufacturing facility in Durban. I realize that all of you are dedicated to the activities of this week, where we'll be seeing the World Economic Forum in Durban, which commences this afternoon. But I do hope you'll take time to enjoy our beautiful city in Durban with its weather and friendly people, together with the multicultural cuisine that it offers. Today's fast-changing world calls for a close cooperation between countries of the world. Globalization presents many challenges to our region, and as such, we should cooperate with the aim of achieving mutual benefits. I hope these sessions will highlight possible avenues for cooperation between countries and also come up with beneficial, cutting-edge resolutions which can positively impact the economies of our countries. Transnet Engineering, the only manufacturing division of Transnet, which is a state-owned freight and logistics company, has more than 150 years of experience. Transnet Engineering researches, designs, manufactures, and remanufactures rolling stock products, including locomotives, passenger coaches, freight wagons, and also provide maintenance and services to these products. We are making a contribution towards industrializing our continent. We have over 11,000 employees and operate in 6 main plants with 132 depots across the country. We have planned a brief tour for all of you to showcase our capabilities as a manufacturing organization and show our capable workforce and also some of our products and services. We hope you do enjoy the learning journey and we wish you a very fruitful and productive conference. Thank you very much.
The tour of Transnet continues. This is Transnet Engineering, the backbone of South Africa's railway industry. Here it was suits for safety gear. Transnet recently launched the first locomotive to be entirely designed and manufactured in Africa. It was built here.
As you can see, the locomotive has been started being equipped. You're really getting items inside. On our left-hand side, so we do the pre-assembly of the electricals and the mechanical components. And they are also getting fitted on the station opposite it. We're going to go out this door. We're going to have an experience of something called the traverser. We use a traverser to move locomotives from one bay to another.
Now, if you remember clearly, just now, Transnet created the first African locomotive. Now they're taking it a step further, and right next to me is the first electrical African locomotive created by Transnet. Now let's go inside and find out what they have in store for us over here at Transnet Engineering. Jabulani Kumalo, a technical supervisor, is one of the brains behind the locomotive.
So this is the innovation that we did in order to help us to fit the transformer under the locomotive. Yeah. What we did for the temporary solution, while we didn't have a jig, that a lifting divider that we can use to feed the transformer. So we designed this one in order to use it at a particular stage. So what actually doing, when the transformer is coming, we put it on top of the jig, and then we push it under the loco. What is under the loco, we jack it up with a lifting jack. Once we lift it up, and then we secure it, we're pushing the bolt, we put on the bolt, and then we're securing the bolt. What is exciting for us, this is a new locomotive for us. This is a new design. It's the first time to build a new locomotive for Durban depots, since we started to work. We're always repairing the old logos, but for us, for that, to doing the logo, started from the scratch, to put everything, it's something special for us.
Then it was time to see the locomotive roll.
Women, he can urinate, it's okay. This is our African dream. You know, I can't urinate. So you would be there by the, that was my plan.
So what you're looking at here is 4 types of wagons. These wagons are designed specifically to function in any type of rail in Africa, with all the African problems that we're having currently, where we're having big wagons that cannot really operate because the rails are very small. So these wagons operate from a 16 ton per axle to at least 30 ton per axle length. So some of these design that we have over here, they can be custom changed, but the framework remains the same. They make it easier to remain the same, so that when you design them and build them, the manufacturing becomes so possible. We have manufactured some of this thing already for other clients, which is currently happening, and it's very beautiful. Not only we staying in the fact that we need to supply only in the African environment, we're also doing more projects against to cater everything that's happening in the world. Probably Middle East, that we're doing real projects for Middle East right now. But what you have here now, for the first one is a fuel tank wagon. It's a pressurized tank wagon with 500 kPa, and we're having a timber wagon used to carry timber logs for 6 meters and 12 meters. It is the biggest in the country currently. It carries around 55 tons load. We're designing a new one that's going to carry around 60 tons load. And then the one that you see in front of it is a skeletal wagon that carries 12 meter and 6 meter ISO containers. It's the lightest wagon in the continent. And it has so much saving in terms of energy, because we have around 36 to 37% energy savings on empty load. And on the other side of the locomotive, you're seeing a gondola type wagon that carries bulk commodity, coal, iron ore, manganese ore, any other bulk that we have. Although it's not food grade per se, for now we're going to be doing more wagons on food grade that it's going to be manufactured here in this plant. But some of these wagons are all manufactured manufactured in Transnet. All components used here are components are supplied by South African companies. So we design with that kind of things in it.
The CEO of Transnet believes this locomotive is good for Africa.
So what you see at the back here is our innovation and new technologies around the new Transnet Africa locomotive, which has been built to be able to go all the way up to the equator and even beyond. It's 17 tons per axle locomotive. But also you'll see some of the lighter materials that we've been using to make new wagons, new wagon types. And also what you see here is the KwaZulu-Natal Business Express. It's going to be a train that can be used between Durban and Pietermaritzburg, Business Express. But also it can be chartered and people can use it for functions. It's got state-of-the-art conference facilities, as well as business class sitting, as well as dining. So this is just a glimpse of what Transnet actually does. It shows that we're African, but we're also portraying here African excellence and innovation and the kind of technology that we're working with. where we are pioneering advanced manufacturing for Africa at this transit engineering facility.
Celebrations, rails, wheels, whistles, and hope. Just another day at Transnet. Well, there you have it. Transnet building locomotives suited specifically for African conditions. We can only look forward to its future initiatives here in the African continent. From me, Aviwe Mtila, at the World Economic Forum here in Durban, goodbye.